Matty Fresh on the track up estate. And I'm bringing to you live my boys Alec and Nate. Tequila Ty, Jay, Nelly, and Zillin in the building. So kick it back, pour the drink. We chillin' because I'm boozing and betting and balling like I'm 2-6 in the blue kicks. Watch me move quick. Yeah, this the blueprint. So who's getting involved? Welcome into the show. This is Booze, Bets, and Ball, baby.
And welcome back to Booze, Bets, and Ball, a Penn State football podcast brought to you by Big Banter. We get to talk about a way more fun game than the UMass game this week as Penn State heads to Ohio State for a battle of two 6-0 teams. We did do a little crossover with the Ohio pod, and I'm going to put that at the end of the show here. Scheduling conflict, couldn't have them on today, but I did sit down with them early in the week, gave some insight into Kyle McCord and some injuries that Ohio State had. So some interesting stuff in there. I'll have that at the end of the show. But guys, we get to have some fun here, talk about a big game. Tyler and I are going. And Nate, you were there, what, 2019? 21 you went?
2021.
Yeah, so we all have some horseshoe experiences after this week. But game info, noon start, of course, because why wouldn't it be? Big Fox, Big Noon, obviously. Their pregame show will be there. Game day is going to be there. Josh Payton is going to be there. So everyone and their mother is going to be there. Right now, Ohio State, a 4.5-point favorite at home, and they're given a 63.5% chance to win. This is actually way down from the beginning of the year when I think it was like a 89% chance to win. So that has swung significantly in Penn State's favor halfway through the season. High of 58. I saw there's a chance of rain showers. I don't know.
Shouldn't be too bad. It looks like a shower here and there, but nothing bad.
Yeah, I was thinking about this. I don't think the rain will do enough to play a factor in this game, but that has to benefit Penn State if it does, right? Like
it's a turf field, right? I think too.
Yeah.
Well,
we got the better run game, so yeah, I think it helps.
Yeah, we're gonna get into that actually because I was a little surprised to hear that Penn State's was a little better. So far, Ohio State so far this season 6-0, obviously 36 points per game, which I think is actually low for Ohio State standards. Mm-hmm. The 9.7 points per game allowed, though, third in the nation. This is probably the best Ohio State defense we've seen in a while, at least on paper. Kyle McCord in his first year taking over for CJ Stroud, 64% completion percentage, 1,600 yards, pretty good touchdown to interception ratio. Hasn't really, like Aller, hasn't really taken over a game yet, but also really hasn't had to because of how good the defenses have been for them. Some injuries for Ohio State to get into here, which is going to be a little big. Denzel Burke, the corner. Eric from the Ohio pod told me he's probably back. It's these other three guys, all offensive guys that there were some question marks with. Henderson, is that Trayanum? Is that how you say that? I think so. And Egbuka, obviously a big one. So if Ohio State doesn't have the three of them, it's going to be a little interesting here what happens because obviously Marvin Harrison is kind of the engine that runs the Ohio State offense, but with Penn State having Kalen King at cornerback, them being low at other positions could really help Penn State.
We're going to kick their ass. We're going to smoke. So by all accounts, I think the two running backs and Egbuka very likely are out. So you have to deal with Marvin Harrison Jr., Cade Stover, and Julian Fleming. So it would suck if he came up big against Penn State. But like missing those three guys is a huge hit for them, right? You can give more attention to the top two targets there, and you don't have to. Egbuka is, when he's healthy, he's probably a top 5 wide receiver in the country, right? He's not that much different. Well, he's not as good as Marvin Harrison, but he's pretty damn good. So that is a huge bonus for us.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'd say, I know we're all talking about McCord's not lighting it up. He's still a very, very good quarterback. It's just we're used to such a high standard with Ohio State quarterbacks that it's just he has unfair expectations going into the year, be it just where he plays and the position he plays. So we can't take him lightly. We can't take this team lightly. We know that it's Ohio State. I mean, we're going to get up for this game. They're going to get up for this game. It's going to be a battle, and we'll see what happens.
Yeah. I was looking at their defense here actually, and I was surprised by kind of the lack of sacks that Ohio State actually has. Now, JTT, who we all know from last year, leads the way with 3, but then no one else has over 1.5 sacks on this Ohio State team. And Penn State's tackles honestly have been maybe the strongest part of the I mean, definitely been the strongest part of the offensive line, but maybe one of the most consistent groups on the offense overall, the 2 tackles.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a huge advantage for Penn State in this. I think the kind of one of the worries I have on that side of the ball is the interior of the line, who JB Nelson apparently was a full participant today.
Yep.
You're missing the UMass game, which is pretty big because Tyleik Williams leads Ohio State with 6 tackles for loss and a sack, and Michael Hall Jr. has a sack and a half on the season. So those, I think they're the 2 starters at defensive tackle for Ohio State. That's going to be the big battle, I think, to watch there, because I think Fashanu and Wallace will be okay at the tackle spots. We saw Penn State struggle with Johnny Newton up the middle. The Illinois game, that was where Aller had some problems. He was getting rushed right up the middle. I think they have to count for that, and I think you're going to see a lot more Katron Allen in this game because he probably is the better pass protection running back over Singleton.
Yeah, I tweeted something just before this, and I have that down as kind of the bigger matchup when Penn State has the ball, is our rushing offense against their rushing defense, because we ranked 1st in total yards per game rushing and 4th in yards per attempt at 4.6. And the Ohio State defense is only giving up 109 yards per game rushing at 3.2 yards per attempt, both 4th in the Big Ten. So I think that's when Penn State has the ball is where it is and where it needs to be. And like you're saying, we have made the most of the bones offensively with the rush game and with the short passing game. So I think those things are important. And individual matchups we'll let you guys discuss, but unit-wise, that's what I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we still got to be careful of these DNs. They're highly recruited. JTT had that game last year, so we still got to be wary of it. I'm sure some of the stats are just teams game planning for how good they are and throwing quick passes and not taking those deep shots. But we have the offensive line that's capable of giving Drew a couple seconds back there. And I think we really do got to stretch this field if we want to beat Ohio State. We're going to have to hit a deep pass. We're going to have to hit some spark plays. Controlling the game works when we can, but I mean, in these type of games, you still need some of those spark plays to take you over the top, and we're going to look for that, and we'll see what's able to happen.
Yeah, that kind of leads into the next point I wanted to make. If Denzel Burke is back, the Ohio State corner, it's a pretty strong assumption that he's going to be on Keandre Lambert-Smith, Penn State's best receiver, Penn State's best deep option. After not really going deep down the field all season and the whole speaking Japanese thing at the press conference, Penn State came out, did throw the ball downfield a little more. Theo Johnson was at about 35-yard touchdown down the middle. Aller overthrew one, and then 2 guys dropped him. Warren dropped a wide open touchdown, and was that Wallace?
Yeah, he had a drop.
Wallace, yeah, Wallace had a drop on one, like on the sideline. So Penn State tried a little more, but if Burke is on Lambert-Smith, where's the ball going if Penn State's throwing?
I think it's like we've talked about a number of times that you got to keep getting the tight ends in the mix, right? And then we've seen both running backs be able to catch the ball pretty well. So if you're going to keep it in that kind of short to medium range pass game, it's the tight ends and the running backs. And then, like Tyler's saying, though, too, you want to stretch the field, and that's what Harrison Wallace brings to the table that they were missing for 4 games in a row there, give or take.
Absolutely. And I think an X factor could be Omari Evans with his speed this game. I mean, we've seen him play a ton of football, but not get the targets. I mean, he's had some mental errors, but he lit it up in the blue-white game. And by all accounts, everyone saw going into the year, he was supposed to be that third receiver. So I think this is a potential spot where we could see a breakout game from him, or maybe even like Cephas or someone, but they got that speed where I could see them queuing it up, taking that shot. And you've seen Drew and him connect on it before last year in the Ohio game. So
this past game, last week against UMass, I don't remember seeing Cephas or McLean in at all.
I was gonna bring that up. If you would have told me after the West Virginia game that Malik McLean would have one catch over the next 5 games, I would not have believed you.
Yeah.
He's totally disappeared. He's not even in the 2 deep. I don't think now. I don't know what went on there, but
he had a few drops against Illinois, I think, right? And
it was
kind of disappeared since then.
Yeah.
I can't find any stats on quarterback pressures, but we worry or we wonder about the passing game. Penn State is giving up the fewest sacks, has given up the fewest sacks in the Big Ten, and Ohio State defense is near the bottom in sacks generated at 10 compared to Penn State's 27. So, I'm not sure again if they're getting a lot of pressures and just not getting home or not. But if the pass protection holds up, you can look for more of those deep shots and you can let things develop maybe more than you could when the Boses were there and Chase Young and those guys. Yeah, because I don't think the pass rush is what it was.
Yeah, Eric, I talked about this with Eric when I went on their pod. He said teams, obviously, kind of like Penn State, they've played a lot of lesser competition so far this season outside of Notre Dame. And a lot of those teams were just trying to get the ball out quick and not letting Ohio State get home, very just overmatched teams with bad offensive lines trying to get it out quick. Obviously Penn State has more skill on the offensive line, so they could take a couple more seconds. But I don't know if we've seen the full potential of Ohio State's pass rush because they haven't been given many opportunities, I don't think.
They had 0 sacks against Notre Dame. They had 2 against Maryland and 3.
Yeah, that's telling though. 0 against Notre Dame. I think Notre Dame's line is maybe a little
sure.
better than Penn State's, but I mean Joe Alt Olufashanu kind of looked at us the top 2 tackles in the country. So similar, kind of a similar thing to look at there for sure.
This is a statement game too for Caden Wallace. I mean, he's played really well this year, but we have seen his slip ups in the past. So it kind of is a make or break to see because we know JTT likes to go from that. I guess their left, our right side. That's where he did a lot of his damage last year against us. So
against Caden Wallace too, right? I think most
a little
of
bit. The first half stuff was, but the end of the game where he just totally ripped it apart was Effner.
Okay.
Yeah, and I feel a lot better that in the event that Wallace would go down, it's Drew Shelton now instead of Bryce Effner. I think that's a huge upgrade for Penn State there as your third.
I'm very curious to see how much we rotate too. I know we have the 7 starters if JB's healthy, according to Franklin nowadays, but I really want to see what they kind of do with that. If they want to get the cohesive unit together and get their groove, or keep the rotating going and get fresh bodies in there.
Yeah. All right. So kind of flipping over the other side of the ball, I was a little surprised to see some of the rushing numbers for Ohio State this year.
Very low.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if this is exactly right, but on Sports Reference, they have them at 135 a game. They are averaging 2 touchdowns, but a 4.3 average per carry. Now they've dealt with a lot of injuries in that group. I don't think a single guy on the 3 deep has been healthy the entire season, which has played a role. But, we know Penn State's Achilles heel last year was defending the run, but I think it's significant that Ohio State isn't running at the level they did the past few years, because then Manny Diaz doesn't have to bring more guys into the box, and Penn State could play more defensive backs against, the best receiving core. I brought this up the other day, and I have to get your guys' opinion on this after this, but Penn State hasn't played a receiver this year that would crack the 2 deep at Ohio State, right? I really don't think so.
Isaiah Williams at Illinois was decent, right?
Maybe him. Yeah. But seriously, this is a whole,
sure.
A new game. So I'm just saying, with them struggling running the ball, the safeties can, Daquan Hardy, who had a big game as special teams last week, we could see a lot more of him, see the safeties stay back. So I think it's pretty significant that Penn State could maybe rely on the front 7 against Ohio State's run game.
Diaz is going to bring some stuff that we haven't seen yet this year too. You can guarantee that. It's just the nature of who he is. He's going to have some crazy packages out there and some shit we haven't seen.
Mm-hmm.
So on the Ohio State running game, this is something that I did want to talk about. So they are averaging 4.3 yards per rush. Penn State is 4.6. And again, they're 4th in the Big Ten there, but Ohio State is somewhere around 8th. Their last outing against Purdue, they were under 4 yards. Against Maryland, they rushed 33 times for 62 yards, which I don't know. I would venture is one of the lowest Ohio State rushing totals in probably the last 10 years. And they besides Western Kentucky, they have been over 4.6 all year. So they have really struggled against everybody rushing the ball. But they've made it up. They made it up in passing, where they are 308 yards a game and 9.6 yards per attempt, which is first and second in the league, respectively. You counter that with the Penn State defense that's giving up 120 yards and 4.6 yards per attempt, which are first in the league. So, like on that side of the ball, it's pass game against pass game, and I think this makes a lot of determination about who wins this game is how which offense can move the ball, the Ohio State passing offense or the Penn State rushing offense.
Yeah, Tyler, you brought up Diaz going to bring some things we haven't seen yet. I'm kind of waiting for the linebackers to get going. Jacobs and Carter have 2 combined sacks and I think maybe 6 tackles for loss on the year. Kind of looking to see this was kind of the game last year that Carter really went nuts too. So looking to see if he starts doing some different things with those two, because I know they haven't been asked to do a lot because of the level of competition, but kind of waiting for them to show up to the party this year.
Yeah, I agree with that. And we need them to play well, because if they're not playing well, that's when Diaz has to bring those extra guys in the box to stop the run if they get it going. And then that's when they can exploit you in the passing game. So this is really a game that I think he's going to lean heavily on Carter and Jacobs. So, I mean, Jacobs is now a 4-year starter or 3-year starter, 4th-year guy.
3.5, yeah.
Yeah, so, I mean, he's got a ton of experience. He's made for these matchups. I think he's one of the more underrated linebackers in the country. So it's kind of him for put up or shut up and see where he can get his draft stock to. I'm sure he's thinking about that. And most importantly, all these guys, no one on the team's beat Ohio State before. So
that's true.
Who are you covering Cade Stover with for most of this game?
I'm mixing it up with Saki, Jalen Reed, and then Carter.
Okay. Yeah.
So you mentioned strength versus strength here, kind of Ohio State's passing attack, Penn State's defensive ends, and the corners. The defensive ends for Penn State have really gotten going recently, especially Adisa Isaac, who's now up to 5 sacks on the year. Chop Robinson has 3. The Ohio State tackles have struggled. So I think that if they make Ohio State one-dimensional where they can't run the ball and have to drop back a lot of times, those two, and I'm sure DDS will be put in some interesting spots, maybe up the middle like he was a few times so far this year. They have a chance to really tee off on McCord if given the chance here.
You get into some of those like Isaac, Chop, DDS, Durant lines, right? That it's just so fast, and then you bring a linebacker, and like teams don't know what to do. And we saw that a lot last week. And granted, like you said, Massachusetts is nothing like Ohio State, but some of those blitzes where everybody's standing up can just be so confusing and wreak total havoc on the offense.
Oh, I can guarantee we'll have the 3 defensive ends in there on 3rd and longs.
Yeah.
It's gonna be those 3, and then we honestly might send both Carter and Jacobs with just 6 DBs at the line, tell them to go for it.
Yeah, I think we will see that kind of package a lot, just because they're going to match the speed that Ohio State has at receiver, and Stover's not too bad at tight end, so it's just going to be speed on speed. I think we talked about how maybe this is why Penn State struggles with Michigan, because they built a team to beat Ohio State.
Yeah.
But now I think they have the right personnel on defense, like man for man, to actually match up with an Ohio State offense.
Absolutely.
All right, so a couple more things to get into here before we get into predictions. But do we think Penn State can run the ball at all in this game? Are we confident in – I thought Katron Allen looked pretty good last week, but are confident in Singleton breaking some things? I think they're going to try some different things with him, get him out in space, screen passes. Apparently, Eric told me no one's attempted a screen pass against Ohio State this year yet. So I don't know, but apparently not. So maybe Penn State tries a screen with Nick Singleton this week.
So when you say, like, can they run the ball, you have to define what success looks like in that when you ask that question, right? So, like, against Iowa,
Right.
They ran the ball 57 times for 215 yards. Right?
Okay, let me explain this a little further. I think we believe that Ohio State, for how good Iowa's defense is, their offense is so bad where it doesn't matter. This is the best defense Penn State's played, considering there's a competent offense on the other side of the ball. The constantly getting the 10, 12, 15 play drives that Penn State's kind of relied on this year, I don't know how sustainable that is against a defense that has as much talent as you do. So running the ball 4 yards, 3-4 yards every time sounds good in theory, and it's what you need to do at the end of the game. But for Penn State to put up points, at least early, there might need to be some 15, 20-yard runs finally. Like, is there confidence that Singleton starts to get some bursts here? Because I feel like they're going to need some big plays in order to score.
Yeah. That worries me. If we have to have him get, break some like he did against Auburn or Utah last year, then that worries me more because we haven't seen it in 6 games yet. I mean, he's certainly capable of it because we saw it a bunch last year, but for whatever reason, it hasn't happened this year. He had one, I want to say like 15-yard touchdown or somewhere thereabouts against Illinois that
like if
could
they
have
were
gone
down
forever,
right?
Right.
If they were down the other end of the field, we wouldn't be really talking about this.
Right.
But
besides that, and besides the Trey Potts 20-yarder or whatever, and another, Katron had like the 5th largest or longest run of the year last week, and half of it was dragging 7 UMass guys for like.
Right. I remember that.
So if you need those things, I'm a little bit nervous until we see it once or twice.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we're up to the point of the year where they kind of got to do it if they're going to.
Right.
I mean, I don't know. There's so much talent in this team and this offense that we all, I mean, I'm sure we're going to sound biased as hell saying this, but we're probably all thinking they're holding stuff back. They're holding back looks where we can get them in space easier. I mean, we really haven't called any too crazy like run plays. It's all straight up like this is what we're going to do, and they're doing it successfully enough that we're maintaining drives. But I mean, Katron's kind of looked like a beast coming on.
Yeah.
I know last game he got hurt with Northwestern a little bit, but he just kind of has that extra feel where he's going to fall forward, and Singleton's picking up on that. So it's just like, I guess it's kind of what we're looking for. And Franklin defines it as a 12-plus yard run or something as an explosive play. I think we're going to get a couple of those. But we also got to keep maintaining drives the way we have it. We can't rely on the explosive plays.
The other thing that somebody mentioned in our group chat the other day was that you haven't seen these guys at all deep into the 3rd and 4th quarters. And I think that is pretty meaningful too, because
absolutely.
They have, the offensive line, the running game has been wearing the hell out of opposing defenses. And maybe, you get Nick Singleton in when it's later in the game and he has the opportunity to break that, and he hasn't had to do that. So I will give that the benefit of the doubt that,
I mean, that's a lot of where his big runs last year came from too. So, I mean, it's late in the Auburn game. It was late in the Rose Bowl. I mean, not super late, but like 3rd quarter-ish.
It was first drive of the 3rd quarter. Yeah, I looked it up.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's the second half, and we kind of just got to keep wearing these teams down and dial up these home run plays. Or if they're going to keep stacking the box like other teams have with 8 guys in there to take that away, then Drew's going to have to beat him with his arm, which he's capable of.
Yeah.
We just got to see it this week.
Yeah. And that is the other thing. I think people discount how capable he is because he hasn't had to do it that much yet. Mm-hmm. Right. And for the year, we have a pretty decent time of possession advantage over everybody else in the Big Ten. So we lead the league in that. Ohio State's near the bottom. That can come into that fatigue factor a little bit. Our offense has run 463 plays this year, and theirs has run 383. So we're going to keep that defense on the field a lot more likely than you would think that they will do to us. So that takes a toll.
Yeah, Nate, that brings up kind of another question I had, and I was talking about this with my brother, but Penn State has not played a 60-minute game yet this season. They've had 2 games over at halftime and pretty much the majority over by the middle or end of the 3rd quarter. Does Penn State's defense this will probably be their first 60-minute game, is that an advantage or a disadvantage? Is it an advantage that they're fresh this late in the season, or is it a disadvantage that they haven't had to go out there and play a full 60 yet and be tested to the final buzzer?
You go, Tyler.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sitting here trying to think about that. In my personal opinion, I would say it's probably an advantage because they are fresh. We have built that reps for everybody, that they've got the experience in the games. So we have backups that can go in. They're capable throughout the whole game. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. These guys train year round.
Yeah.
So I really don't think like with it being the sixth game of the year and they haven't played a 60-minute game, as we say, is that big of a significant factor to them. I think they're going to be fresh. They're going to be teed off. And we still have guys that we have a 2 deep that I would put out there against almost every Big Ten team except probably Penn or Ohio State and Michigan, and like as starters. Yeah. So I mean, we have guys we can rotate through. So yeah, I really don't see it as a big disadvantage at all. If anything, I don't know if it's really a huge advantage either. But I mean, if I had to go one way or the other, I'd say advantage.
So back in 2018, right, when Penn State played Ohio State and got out to an early lead and then just got rolled in the second half of the game because the defense was on the field for, most of the second half and fatigue. It didn't have the guys to rotate in and all this stuff. You see how that works against you. But I think I tend to agree with Tyler very much here that I don't think it matters. I think it's probably somewhat of an advantage because, one, you're still rotating guys. So you're going to take it's not like they played the entire first half and 60 plays in the first half and then played 0 throughout the second half of these games and now they're going to play 120, right? You're still spreading them around for 60 minutes and you're doing rotations throughout the game and you're just kind of adding on a little bit. I don't think the delta between what they are playing and a full 60-minute game is that much because you're moving guys, right? It's not just you're going from your ones playing a half, now your ones playing a whole full game.
Yeah.
And we do have enough depth now that the guys will not get beat up at the end and be so beat up and fatigued at the end.
Yeah.
Yeah. 17 was just such a perfect storm too. There was no depth on defense. We didn't have the O-line to consistently run the ball.
Yeah.
And we were relying on the explosive play. Yeah. Guys got hurt. Exactly. We were just relying on explosive plays. And if they're not hitting, then that's how that shit happens, I guess. But we don't have that this year. We're going to be able to get 4 yards to carry at times. We're not going to do it every play, but I mean, we have a team that we can go ahead and do that.
Yeah. And I meant specifically 2018 when it was at Penn State.
Oh, yes, my bad.
And they're throwing screens and taking them 60 yards, right? Because Micah Parsons can only run so many 100-meter dashes.
So 2 quick points, I guess, before we get to predictions. But I don't know if you guys saw this or not, but Ohio State pulled out the Lion package, so to say, last week with Devin Brown. I think they did it 3 times. They turned it over once and then scored touchdowns the other 2 times. I don't know if they're bringing that out in this game or they purposely did that to make Penn State work on it this week. I had that conversation with Eric during our time talking. So 2 points. Where do you lean on that? And should Penn State bring out a Bo Prabula package this week, or should they have done it this past week to make Ohio State do the same thing and prepare for it?
The team that usually does this because they feel like they have to lose this game. Exactly. So if they're doing it because of that, then we're going to win. It's probably one of these things you put it on tape, right? So they have to prepare for it or whatever. Right. I feel like that's weird philosophically too, because if you're giving them an opportunity and making them waste some amount of time to prepare for it versus having the opponent not know it exists and then surprising them, I feel like the advantage is to not do it. But so I don't quite understand that. But I don't know. It's a little gimmicky. It's it's back when we had Will Levis do it and stuff. And
they're trying to keep the backup happy. You didn't want them to transfer.
They're just trying things to see what works right now. I mean, it doesn't really affect things either way. Penn State will probably spend like 10 minutes of practice on it. Yeah. I don't think it's a significant thing. They'll throw us off on anything else or we'll get burned by it. If we get burned by it, we get burned by it. But I mean, that one play is not going to make or break this whole game. I don't think it's going to be the whole 60 minutes. Yeah. So I don't think it's that significant.
I think Penn State kind of benefits. The defense, at least the first team defense, benefits from the fact that they play against Bo Prabula in practice most days. So, a similar type of quarterback. Obviously, they have some experience with that.
And we've run the Bo Prabula package like the second half of 5 games, right? And you know what it is. It's just kind of
Yeah,
it's read option or
the fake knees.
The fake knee that apparently should have been called down play, right? Or whatever.
Yeah.
So.
Crazy. Last thing, obviously, Penn State quarterback Drew Aller, Ohio kid, was not really recruited by Ohio State until the very end when Quinn Ewers reclassified to the 2021 class. So then Ohio State needed a 2022 quarterback, but it was too little too late there for them. A lot of people are saying there's too much, at least Ohio State fans I see on Twitter saying there's too much pressure on him coming in this game. He's going to play bad. Penn State fans will tell you that he has a chip on his shoulder and he's going to come in here and have a big game. This leads me to believe he's going to complete like 60% of his passes for 2 touchdowns, 200 yards, being right down the middle. But where do you guys stand on this? Do you think Aller is the moment going to get too big, or is he going to prove that, he's kind of the dude and maybe people start? I don't think he can get really in this Heisman race with the way some of these other quarterbacks are playing, but is his name going to start to be associated with that after this week, or are we going to say the lights were too bright?
His away performance so far is pretty bad.
Yeah, that's a problem. Yeah.
It's like 50% completion, 50% completion rate in the games against Illinois and Northwestern. So now, is that because those games where Northwestern was after Iowa? So you can expect a letdown. Those are both really sleepy environments. You can lose focus, all this stuff. And then, like you're saying now, this moment is going to be much bigger and he'll be considerably more ffocused. And he's got a lot more going. Like, we need him more so he can rise to the occasion more. I don't know. But I would hope that's the case. But his performance thus far in the away games gives me a touch of pause.
Yeah, I mean, obviously you got to think about it for a second because of that. But those are the 2 games that we missed Harrison Wallace the whole game for. So
True.
I think that's a huge factor, him being back there. That was his number 2 guy all summer, all camp. That's who he was practicing with on the field for most of the time, I'm sure. So I think that's going to be a huge factor in it. And I mean, everyone that's interviewed this kid, seen him play, heard him talk, he's locked in. I don't think he's going to get too high or too low. I think there's going to be times where, he might be like, he second guessed himself there, or took half a second too long here and there. That's just things that happen in the game unless you're Aaron Rodgers or something like that. So something's going to happen bad, I'm sure, and something's really good's going to happen. It's just going to see how he carries himself throughout the entire game, and I don't see that being any leading reason for a win or a loss in this game. I think he's going to play well. He's extremely talented, got great supporting cast around him, so we'll see what happens.
Sean Clifford went to the shoe twice and did pretty well both of those games, right?
19 was a little rough for him, but
I guess that's true.
Yeah, he really did not. Yeah,
but he can do it. Like, Drew Aller has been working for this for his whole life, basically. Right? So he's groomed for this. I'm sure it'll be fine.
Yeah.
And they're going to rely on the damn running game anyway. So,
exactly.
Can you get away without him needing to be, Trevor Lawrence from 3 years ago or something?
Right. Okay, so Penn State has not won in the shoe since 2011. The last time they won in the shoe where both Penn State and Ohio State were legitimate teams was 2008. And if you want to make the comp that there's some similarities here, I'll say that Ohio State's quarterback attended high school in Pennsylvania, and Penn State's went to high school in Ohio, and that was the case in 2008. So I guess you got a little similarity there when both teams were ranked in the top 10 like they were in that showdown. So where are we going here? I'm going to start off by reading Nelly's. He has 31-20 Penn State.
31-20. The other similarity, so that was exactly 15 years ago. It was within 1 week of my birthday. This game is also within 1 week of my birthday, so we're gonna win. So, and I'm having a party on the day of the game, as I did 15 years ago. So
there you go.
So yeah, it's kismet, and if we lose, although that game was at night, I'm gonna say 28-17 Penn State. So the same as Nelly, but 3 points fewer for each team.
I'm gonna go. Oh, shit, I don't know.
Did you mention Darryl Clark was an Ohio quarterback, a quarterback from Ohio too, going to that game?
Yeah, I said
Did
Penn
you?
State's
Okay.
quarterback was
Okay,
from
I'm sorry.
Ohio,
I missed
and
that.
Ohio State's quarterback
I
attended
heard
high
the
school
I heard the
in
Terrell
Pennsylvania.
Pryor bit, but I missed the Daryl Clark.
Yeah, because it's the whole McCord is from New Jersey.
Yeah, I know.
but
I know.
what?
I know.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry.
Thanks, Steve. You gave me a little more time to think about
Sorry.
this. I'm going to go 33 to 27, Penn State.
Okay, so you're a little high scoring. I think this is going to be like the Ohio State Notre Dame game, honestly. I think this is going to be a lower scoring game. But I have Penn State 21-17, actually. I think both teams are going to struggle. I think Penn State's going to struggle because they can't find the explosive plays. And I think Ohio State's going to struggle because they've been pretty one-dimensional, and Penn State is built to stop the pass. So that is kind of where I'm at. I think both teams just struggle to score, and it's a grinded-out game. So I have 21-17.
I think
In case you're wondering, we got the 33 in my prediction by getting a safety. It's my bold prediction.
Okay.
I think
we'll
we
clip that.
grind them into a pulp eventually, and like maybe it's 21-17, late in the fourth quarter, but then that's when you get a big kind of Nick Singleton run to seal it up or something.
Right. All right, that's enough football talk. Let's get to the good stuff. Let's get to the drink of the week here, an oldie that we got. But
it's a classic. It's the most famous. Yeah. We got a noon game on the road, biggest game of the year to date. So why not bring out the Nittany Lime Mimosa that we all love? Have you guys tried it? I know, Alec, I made you try it last year.
Yeah, I did try it. Yeah.
Good. So it's a classic. We brought it out last year for the Auburn game. Alec was a little iffy, and some other people were a little iffy. And look what happened. So we're gonna bring it back, but let's go back to it. We got the half lemonade. I usually go champagne, but you can go dry prosecco, and then just a little bit of blue carousel to get that coloring. And then you can also muddle up some blueberries, throw it in there if you like. Some people don't do it. Some people do. It's whatever you prefer. But hey, we're going on the road. We're going to get a big win. So let's get this Penn State love with the mimosa out there. And let's win a big game this weekend, boys.
If you guys are drinking blue mimosas and champagne flutes in your Penn State gear, you're gonna look great.
Yep.
I'll be in my striped overalls. So
bringing them back, nice.
Oh yeah,
that would be nice. All right, so that's gonna do it for this one. We'll probably have to do 2 shows next week. A reaction show to however this goes down, and then I don't even know who we play. We play Indiana after this, right?
Yeah. It's Halloween weekend. I'll get hammered.
Yeah, that game has been the last thing on my mind, honestly. But so stick around if you want to hear a little insight on Ohio. We're going to talk about Kyle McCord, injuries, and kind of the feeling of the Ohio State fan base right now. So if you want to hear some,
God, I don't want to hear that. I'm sure
stick
it's
around.
The charts optimistic. I'm sure.
Yeah, we were talking about Big Noon and how much they hate it too.
Yeah, okay,
so
that's good.
You would think that because they're, they've been to Fox, what Notre Dame has been to NBC lately, honestly.
Yeah.
Not as official, but it kind of has felt that way. So to hear their fans complain about it has been interesting.
That's interesting. Yeah, because it's not even. Gus and Joel Klatt just absolutely love Ohio State, and they love Michigan. So if they get the game and they're both undefeated, oh my God, I don't know how they're going to survive that.
Well, they won't have to worry about that.
No, they'll both be 10-1 at that game.
Yeah, hopefully. All right, the battle for second place. Hopefully. All right, so that's gonna do it for this one. We'll see you next time.
Every single time, but interesting. I guess perspective there from you. I appreciate that. Yeah. What questions do you have for me, Alec?
Yeah, obviously I know there was a lot of questions about McCord coming into the season, but at least from an outsider standpoint, I look at that final drive against Notre Dame where he, I guess if you want to say grew up, use that word, sure. Yeah. Would you say that's fair that since then he's kind of been a different guy?
Oh yeah, there's definitely more confidence. Now it's funny, the bye couldn't have come at a worse time because you have all that great momentum, and then you go into a bye week, and then you come out and you play a very pesky Maryland team that was riding high 5-0, and it took McCord a good quarter and a half to wake up, from the slumber of a bye week, and I think that's just inexperience. But he looked really good in a bad weather game in West Lafayette this past week. Had a great second half against Maryland. You combine, I think the last 6 quarters he's thrown for almost 600 yards.
Wow.
So I would say he's doing well. He's feeling more comfortable in the offense. But this past weekend, Ryan Day really threw a wrinkle into this offense that no one was expecting with the red zone Devin Brown
Yeah, I
read
saw that.
option.
Yeah.
And none of us were expecting that. And outside of the fumble on the goal line that he had on his second possession in the red zone, he went 2 of 3 scoring touchdowns in the red zone. Other than the fumble, he would have been 3 of 3. Plus, he got in at the end of the game and threw a beautiful ball to 5-star freshman, and looks, so there's the passing threat is there. He's not just going to be a running quarterback. And so I thought it was very interesting that Ryan Day waited to the game before Penn State to pull that out of the playbook
Yeah.
and show James Franklin and Mario Diaz, hey, we can do this as well. Something more for you to prepare for. We have a little going bet that he gets in the game again on the goal line and Penn State's looking for it, and you get the Tim Tebow jump pass.
Right.
It's almost like it's like setting up for it. But yeah, that's a good question on McCord. I would say McCord is developing right where he should be, given the fact that he's been on the bench learning for the last 2 years. Is he CJ Stroud when it comes to arm accuracy? No, he's not. He's been willing to run a little bit more than CJ was, but he is not athletic at all. He's not like someone who's going to break one off and run by everybody. And when he goes the slide, it is the ugliest thing you've ever seen. It's very
Drews aren't that good either. Yeah, it's these bigger pocket passer guys that can't really do it.
Yeah, it's like you guys didn't never play baseball. Come on, man. It's funny. But no, so I think Devin Brown, bringing him in was the way to give that wrinkle to the offense that says now we have a whole different thing that you need to prepare for with the read option. Because he's not running, and McCord's not running a read option. It's not his thing. No one really believes he's going to tuck it and run.
Right.
So it was an interesting wrinkle. But I think McCord's thing is he will throw an interception. He's not afraid to try to put it in a tight window. And because he's not as accurate as CJ, there have been some drops that should have been some interceptions. In fact, that game-winning drive against Notre Dame, there was 2 drops, man.
Yeah, I saw that.
That should have been interceptions. So, yeah, he's been kind of lucky at times too, to be completely honest with you.
Right. Yeah, I think with the whole Devin Brown package, a lot of people are waiting for Penn State to do that with their backup too, because that was something Penn State was notorious for. They did it with Tommy Stevens, and then they did it with Will Levis. So, Prabila, the backup quarterback, is kind of that same ilk. So that's something Penn State might pull out this week. I don't know, but people are kind of waiting for that. I will say, obviously, there were a lot of injuries for Ohio State this past week. Was that maybe more precautionary stuff so they were ready for Penn State, or is there any legitimate concern?
I think there was definitely holding Travion Henderson out for a second consecutive week was on purpose. Wet field, it was bad conditions. Why risk it? We should be able to win this game anyways. Let's hold him out for one more week. He did warm up with the team. He's done that 2 weeks in a row and just not played. Mayan Williams, the backup running back, has been interesting this year. He's been MIA most of the year. The rumor is that he gained too much weight. He has a weight limit. He has a weight problem when he came into Ohio State. He cut the weight, looked good on his one. He had one series. He was running over people against Maryland, and then crickets again last week. Nowhere. Didn't even dress. And then Chip Tranum, the third string running back, who's filled in very nicely for Ohio State last couple weeks. He's almost a glorified fullback in a way. He's been a lead blocker for Henderson at times. He got his bell rung. He's in concussion protocol now. So Dallin Hayden, who was a sophomore this year, who was a 500-yard rusher as a freshman last year, he was our last option, played admirably against Michigan at the end of the year. The plan was to redshirt him this year. And now it's like, redshirt gone, we need you. So he will probably be the backup to Henderson. And if Henderson can't go again, it's going to be Dallin Hayden. Now, there's a lot of confidence in Dallin Hayden. He can do the job. He's young and doesn't have a ton of experience. Like I said, he did play some as a freshman. But obviously, you want the home run threat that Henderson gives you. Henderson is kind of the guy who's going to go 2 yards, 1 yard, 3 yards, 70.
Yeah, Matt Singleton. Yeah, they're pretty similar. Yeah.
Yeah. So there's that. Emeka Egbuka got injured at the end of the Maryland game, was seen in a boot, didn't make the trip to West Lafayette last week. Word was, why risk it? We'll find out where he's at this week. If Egbuka can't go, it's not panic time because, again, we replace 5-star receivers with more 5-star receivers. So, there's a portion of the fan base that's like, uh-oh. But at the same time, I'm not too worried about that either. So,
yeah.
Those are kind of the big injuries. And then the one I mentioned with Burke. That one's scary because if Burke can't go, you're losing your number one corner, shutdown corner, who's been electric all year. He's only giving up. He's like only giving up less than 1 catch a game.
Oh, wow.
He has been really good. They're saying he could be the number one corner taken next year if, until this happened. But we'll see. We'll see what happens, how this week goes for him. Hopefully he can make a go of it Saturday.
Yeah, I guess my last thing is more of a fan question, but what's the disappointment level with you guys for this being a noon game versus a night game?
We hate it.
Yeah.
Here's what's crazy.
We had to do it last year too. Yeah.
Yeah, the last 3 years, our best games, night games that have happened have been on the road.
Yeah.
Notre Dame got a night game with us. And then some of them don't make sense. We have a night game with Michigan State.
Yeah, I know. I saw that.
No one's okay. We're going to pull out the special jersey that night and everything and try to make it as good as we can, But this should be, in our opinion, this should be an automatic night game every year, last Saturday in October. That's perfect. It's the kind of the Halloween game for everybody, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's what it should be. That should be, in my opinion, and in our opinion, and the players' opinion too, because you talk to a lot of the ex-players who love the Penn State rivalry, man. Going all the way back to the 90s when you guys joined the Big Ten. This was huge. And to get the rug pulled out from under us with, you don't get to play them every year first. That's what they did when they released the schedules the first time.
Yeah.
And it was like, well, you kidding us, right? And then to tell you guys don't even have a rival is when you guys are like, wait a second, we've got Ohio State, and of course, the Ohio State thing with Michigan.
Mm-hmm.
But yes, Penn State is our rival as well. The majority of the fan base, and I know for a fact the players view that as a rivalry, and the fact that the Big Ten for some reason kind of is like, no, it's not. It's kind of like, what did they call it? They called it, instead of a traditional rival, a competitive rivalry. Is that what they worded it?
I think so, yeah.
Makes no sense, but I'm glad to see that we are on the schedule again next year.
Yeah, that is nice.
So we will be making the trip to Happy Valley. Hopefully, it will be a night game because Ohio State versus Penn State in a whiteout is what it should be every freaking time.
Yeah, I know from at least 2013 to 2018, it was a night game every year, and then since then, 21 was a night game, and 20 with no one in the stands was a night game. And then it was noon in 19, noon last year, and
it was 3:30. It was a 3:30 in the one when Saquon.
Yeah.
When Ohio State had the
that was 17.
That was a 3:30 game because I was at that one.
Mm-hmm.
I'm pretty sure. Might have been a noon, possibly. Anyways, that wasn't a night game. I was there. I remember it. But, I agree with you, man. Like that should be a given. But when Fox came in and wanted to make noon kind of their slot for the big game, you knew that they were going to be like, no, we want that game and we want it at noon. So it's not going to change, unfortunately. I just don't foresee it changing until NBC would step up and pay the rights for it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know we talked about this when I came on before the season, but the 3-way 11-1 thing still looks pretty likely to me.
It could happen.
Yeah, and honestly, Penn State got a huge boost in that this past weekend with Iowa beating Wisconsin and Illinois beating Maryland, and then it came out that Wisconsin's quarterback broke his hand, I think, so they might drop a couple more. That was an interesting development this weekend in the case of the 3-11-1s.
Yeah, because if Iowa ends up winning the West, then I think if you look at how things break down and we all go 11-1, Penn State's probably going to get to go to the Big Ten championship. Where if Penn State would have won, it probably would have been Ohio State.
Yeah.
But we'll see, because right now, I thought if all three went 11-1, they all would end up in the college football playoff. But just don't see that happening now because you have Florida State, who's going to run away with the ACC, it looks like. You have Oklahoma, who's much better than I thought they were.
Yeah, me too.
I still think the Pac-12 cannibalizes itself.
Yeah, that could happen. It's crazy, though. In the case that doesn't happen, the committee might have to leave out an undefeated conference champion.
Yeah.
Which would be crazy
like Washington,
to see.
Oklahoma,
FSU,
Florida State, and
Georgia.
then the Big Ten. I think Georgia's going to lose one.
Yeah, I think that could happen.
How crazy would it be to see no SEC teams in the last year?
It'd be fun, honestly. It'd be a little fun to see.
The world would celebrate, right?
Yeah, definitely.
No, I think Georgia can be had.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it'll be Bama that gets them when they go to the SEC championship game, but a one-loss Alabama or even a one-loss Georgia SEC champion is going to get in over an 11-1 Big Ten non-Big Ten champion.
Yeah, that is unfortunate. It would have been nice to have the 12 team this year. That's all I'll say.
Oh my gosh, yeah. There's so many really good football teams this year.
There's a lot of good teams.
This year feels like it's more wide open than it's been in a long time.
Mm-hmm.
So, shoot, this was crazy, but you've got like Notre Dame going into Louisville stunning them, turning right around the next week. Louisville goes to Pittsburgh, 1-4 Pitt, and it gets beat, and then Notre Dame takes down USC. Not only takes them down, kicks their teeth in. Like, there's a lot of craziness going on, and so I thought, even though right now it's kind of like probably not going to happen, you never know what's going to happen in the last part of the season.
Exactly.
And there could be some serious upsets, but I was hoping to see multiple Big Ten teams in. We still might get that.
Yeah.
But it's looking more and more like whichever team comes out of the East is guaranteed to be in, despite maybe even having one loss.
Yeah.
But whichever team gets out of the East is probably going to be in, and that might be the only team, which is really unfortunate because I really do believe that Penn State, Ohio State, and Michigan might be three of the, let's say, best top 5 in the country right now. And there's an argument could be said that they are 3 of the top 4. It sure feels that way right now to me. Interesting to note, get your reaction on this.
All right.
Since week 3, I've had Penn State ahead of Ohio State in the Big Banner rankings.
Okay. Yeah.
I have.
Yeah.
Okay? Knowing that, and knowing that I feel that this could be very much a coin flip game, where are you at in that? Do you feel like these two teams are extremely even, or do you like, no, Penn State is better? Because my eyeballs have told me this year Penn State looks better. They're more complete than Ohio State has been. But I want to get your opinion on that. Ranking-wise, where do you think our two teams are at? Because let's be honest, that even though Michigan has not played anybody, sorry, Victor's Nation, but you guys haven't played anybody, they have looked the most impressive.
Yeah, I think so. The funny thing with me and Penn State and Ohio State is I think they are pretty even from the sense that we just talked about. Penn State has good offensive tackles and a bad interior offensive line. Ohio State has questions at tackle and a good interior. And on the defensive side, it's Penn State has good defensive ends, and there's a question mark at tackle, whereas Ohio State's stronger at tackle and some questions at defensive end. And then Penn State might be a little deeper at running back and tight end, but no one's deeper in the country at receiver than Ohio State. I just think it's funny that where one team is strong, the other team seems to be a little weaker. That's something I've looked at a lot, honestly, going through this year. And both teams, starting former 5-star quarterbacks who sat a year or two behind a veteran. There's a lot of similarities between McCord and Aller, I think. So I've looked at these teams as pretty much even, and I gave Penn State the slight edge earlier in the season by, really much beating up on West Virginia and Iowa, two teams. Iowa's ranked again, and West Virginia's been a solid team, and Penn State won a couple of road Big Ten games against Illinois, Northwestern. I know they're not good, but they're road conference games. But now, since the Notre Dame game, I have kind of put Ohio State ahead by a little bit. Just that's a huge win and on the road. So I've been down the middle of the two of them. I do think Michigan is probably one, and then I think Penn State, Ohio State is kind of like a 2A, 2B right now. And I think this game will decide it, and that's why I don't see either team winning this game by more than maybe 6 points.
Yeah, I'm at a field goal right now. And I'll be dead on it. It's Monday. It's early, so I'm not going to give my prediction yet, but I'll say my score is 27-24. Mm-hmm. I just got to decide which one's going to score 27 right now.
Yeah. I
that's where I'm at.
I'm in the same boat. I've gone back and forth. I think there's things that both teams can easily exploit. Ohio State could just come out, chuck the ball down the field to Marvin Harrison and put Penn State away, and then get after Aller, which is something that no one's done yet this year. So that could happen. And then I could see pretty much the opposite happen. Penn State gets after McCord, and all of a sudden Mike Yurcich had a different playbook from the first 6 games of the year, and Singleton runs for 3 30-yard runs, and Aller hits on 2 40-yard passes. I'd like to see that happen. I know they went downfield a little more against UMass. They hit on 1. 2 of them were literally dropped like right in the hands, and then I think 1 was way overthrown. But they at least took some chances. So I think they're warming up to the idea of it, and I do believe that that could be the difference. I think the difference could be which team hits on a couple big plays, because both of these defenses I think are really good and aren't going to give up enough. It's just who makes kind of the 1 or 2 mistakes where the big play happens.
Alec, tell everybody where they can get your podcast at, man.
Yeah, so if you're looking on a podcast platform, it's Booze, Bets, and Ball, a Penn State football podcast. On YouTube, it's under my media channel where I do other stuff. We do baseball stuff too. That's Whitaker Media, WHITAKER. And then on Twitter /X, the podcast is under 3, the number 3, and then the letter B, and then pod PSU.
There you guys go, man. If you're a Penn State fan listening to this, I highly recommend you check out that podcast. Make it a part of your weekly listen. If you are a Ohio State fan and you're finding this through Booze, Bets, and Ball, a Penn State podcast, by all means, check us out at the Ohio Podcast. You can find us at YouTube, at the Ohio Pod, as well as under Big Banter at bigbantersports.com, where you find both of us at, as well as 12 other teamed podcasts. Some of them are good. I don't know about the turtle heads, but the rest of them are all right.
Yeah.
I'm kidding, guys. You guys have already moved on to basketball. We understand. So, Alec, enjoy this game, man.
I will. I'm going to be out there for it. So
great.
I'm looking forward to going out there.
I tell you what. Look, I'll tell you what. Send me a message, Alec. We'll be tailgating at St. John Arena.
Okay.
I'll let you know where we're at. You can come stop by and say hi to everybody and be a part of. We're going to do some pregame media and everything. So by all means, we'd love to have you. And if whoever you're coming with and going to go to the game with, by all means, stop by and get some breakfast and I don't know if you can drink yet. You seem awful young there,
No,
Alec.
no, I'm good there. Don't worry.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
Well, there'll be plenty of booze for your booze bets and ball. All right.
Sounds good.
All right, everybody. Thank you so much for watching. Enjoy the game, Alec, and we will be back to preview more with all of you as Aaron, Chris, and myself break this game down on a daily. Take care, everybody.